As a neurologist, I'm honestly shocked at how many people over 60 still eat processed meats like bacon, sausage, or deli ham every single day. Without realizing these foods may be speeding up brain aging, recent research has linked processed meats to a higher risk of memory decline and even Alzheimer's disease. In today's video, we're going to uncover why these familiar breakfast staples can quietly work against your brain health, and what smarter, healthier choices you can make instead. If you care about keeping your mind sharp through natural nutrition, don't forget to hit like, share this video with your friends, and subscribe so you won't miss our upcoming health topics. And I'd love to hear from you. At breakfast, do you usually reach for bacon or sausage, or have you started switching to lighter options like eggs, oatmeal, or fresh fruit? Share your answer in the comments below. Your experience could inspire someone else in our community who's also working to protect their brain. When we look at a pack of bacon or a package of sausages at the grocery store, most of us just see meat. But if you take a closer look at the ingredient label, you'll notice a much longer list. And it's those extra additives, not just the meat itself, that can take a serious toll on the brain. The first group to point out are nitrites and nitrates. These are added to keep that bright pink color and to slow down spoilage. Inside the body, however, they can transform into compounds called N-nitrosos, which are linked to inflammation. In the brain, long-term inflammation in tiny blood vessels reduces oxygen and nutrients reaching nerve cells. When neurons aren't well nourished, memory and focus begin to fade. Salt is another major issue. A single slice of bacon or one hot dog can contain as much as a third, sometimes even half, of your daily sodium limit. Over time, too much sodium drives blood pressure higher. High blood pressure makes brain vessels less flexible and more prone to damage. Think of blood vessels like household plumbing. When the pressure is constantly too high, the pipes are more likely to leak or burst. In the brain, that translates into a higher risk of stroke and faster aging of brain tissue. Then there are saturated and trans fats. These are found in sausages, salami, and pepperoni to give that rich flavor and longer shelf life. But in the brain, these fats fuel oxidative stress, producing harmful free radicals. Free radicals act like tiny sparks that fray the wiring of nerve cells, slowing down communication and weakening memory over time. Processed meats also often come with hidden extras, flavor enhancers, thickeners, and added sugars. These make the meat taste better and last longer, but they also force the body to handle an unnecessary load of chemicals. Some studies suggest that regular consumption of heavily processed foods can disturb the gut microbiome. And since the gut and brain are directly linked through the gut-brain axis, a weakened gut can, in turn, harm brain health. When you add it all up, nitrites, excess salt, unhealthy fats, and artificial additives, you end up with a dangerous cocktail for the brain. The damage doesn't show up after one breakfast, but it quietly builds up year after year, speeding up brain aging. This is exactly why people who eat processed meat daily have been shown to face a much higher risk of Alzheimer's disease and dementia. In everyday life, many older adults in the US say they choose bacon or sausage simply because it's quick, tasty, and familiar. Few stop to think about the chemical mix hiding inside. But once we understand how these ingredients are working against our blood vessels and nerve cells, it becomes much easier to think twice before putting processed meats on the table every day. So the next question we need to ask is beyond the ingredient list. How do these substances actually change the brain itself? That's what we'll explore in the next section. What makes processed meat so dangerous to the brain isn't just the salt or the fat. The real threat lies in the chain of biological reactions that quietly unfold inside the body after every meal of bacon, sausage, or deli meat. Preservatives like nitrites, together with excess sodium and saturated fats, set off a cascade that ultimately damages brain cells. The first step in this chain is inflammation. Once inside the body, Nitrites can form compounds called N-nitrososwell, known for triggering inflammatory responses. And this inflammation doesn't just happen in the digestive tract or large blood vessels. It also affects the tiny vessels that nourish the brain. When these vessels become inflamed, they narrow, reducing oxygen and nutrients to nerve cells. The brain is like a machine that requires steady power. When the supply is disrupted, performance slows. That's one reason why memory and focus decline more quickly in people who eat a lot of processed meat. Next comes oxidative stress. Processed meats are loaded with saturated fats, and often trans fats as well. When the body breaks these down, it generates free radicals, unstable molecules that attack cell membranes, proteins, and even the DNA of neurons. You can picture free radicals as sparks flying inside an engine. A few sparks here and there can be managed, but when they multiply, they scorch and corrode vital parts, leaving the brain weaker and more fragile. Over time, this combination of inflammation and oxidative stress leads to neurodegeneration. The brain begins to accumulate abnormal proteins such as amyloid and tau. Amyloid clumps together between neurons, blocking signals, while tau tangles up inside neurons, cutting off nutrient transport. When both take hold, nerve cells falter and die, memory fades, and mental sharpness erodes. Large population studies across different countries have confirmed this link. People who regularly consume high amounts of processed meat face a much greater risk of cognitive decline and Alzheimer's compared to those who limit it. It doesn't mean that one strip of bacon instantly causes harm, but making it a daily habit, year after year, steadily drives the brain toward premature aging. You can often see the difference in everyday life. Someone who eats processed meats frequently may notice that they're more forgetful, lose track of conversations, or struggle to stay focused. Meanwhile, those who swap processed meats for healthier protein sources often maintain clearer thinking and stronger memory well into older age. The danger of processed meat doesn't come from one single factor. It's the combination of inflammation, oxidative stress, and protein buildup, a toxic trio that gradually sets the stage for memory loss and Alzheimer's disease. When most people hear the phrase processed meat, they often think of canned meat or prepackaged meals. But in reality, the definition is much broader. Processed meat refers to any kind of meat that's been cured, smoked, salted, or treated with nitrites and other preservatives to extend shelf life. These foods show up everywhere in the American diet, from the breakfast table to family cookouts. The first and most popular example is bacon. Breakfast doesn't feel complete without a few crispy strips. The smoky aroma and salty crunch make bacon a classic comfort food. But to achieve that taste and look, bacon goes through curing with salt, nitrites, and smoke, making it one of the meat's highest in preservatives. Over time, that combination can take a toll on the brain and blood vessels, even if it doesn't feel obvious at first. Next are hot dogs and sausages, which are deeply tied to American culture, from backyard barbecues to baseball games. Plenty of older adults still enjoy a hot dog as part of family traditions. Yet hot dogs and sausages pack a heavy load of sodium and nitrites. A single serving can exceed a third or even half of the daily recommended salt intake, not to mention the hidden saturated fats. For the brain, this mix fuels inflammation and oxidative stress, two key drivers of memory decline. Another group to be cautious about is packaged deli meat, salami, pepperoni, and turkey slices. They're staples in sandwiches, a quick and easy lunch option for many Americans, including retirees. But these slices, while looking harmless, often contain high levels of sodium and preservatives. Eaten regularly, they raise blood pressure, which directly damages the delicate blood vessels that feed the brain. Canned meats are also worth mentioning. Beef stew, chicken chunks, or ready-to-eat meat in cans might seem convenient on days you don't want to cook. But that convenience usually comes with a high-cost extra salt, preservatives, and flavor additives. For seniors, These ingredients place extra strain on both the heart and the brain. What makes all these meats tricky is how familiar and comforting they feel. A slice of bacon at breakfast, a deli sandwich at lunch, or a hot dog at a picnic brings not only convenience, but also nostalgia. That sense of normalcy often hides the reality that, over time, these foods are slowly loading the brain with silent toxins. If an older adult eats bacon or sausage almost every day, the amount of sodium and nitrites consumed in a single week can far exceed recommended limits. Over the years, those chemicals chip away at brain health much like rust, weakening a water pipe, starting with small spots but eventually damaging the whole system. In the end, common processed meats like bacon, hot dogs, sausages, deli slices, and canned meat aren't just quick and tasty options. They're hidden agents that speed up brain aging. Recognizing them for what they are is the first step toward adjusting our eating habits. And that brings us to the next big question. Once these meats are inside the body, what exactly do they do in the brain that leads to memory decline and a higher risk of Alzheimer's? That's what we'll explore in the next section. Knowing the dangers of processed meat is only the first step. What matters most is finding realistic replacements. After all, it's not enough to simply say, "Don't eat bacon or sausage anymore," and leave it at that. Older adults still need meals that taste good, are easy to prepare, and provide enough protein to keep muscles strong and energy steady. So, what options can protect the brain while still meeting those needs? One of the best recommendations is fatty fish, such as salmon, sardines, and mackerel. These fish are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, especially DHA and EPA2 nutrients essential for brain health. Omega-3s reduce inflammation, protect the membranes around brain cells, and support smooth communication between neurons. Research consistently shows that people who eat fish regularly have a lower risk of memory decline and Alzheimer's disease. Even swapping a few bacon or sausage meals with a simple grilled or steamed fish dish can provide powerful brain-nourishing benefits. Nuts and legumes are another excellent protein source. Almonds, walnuts, pumpkin seeds, lentils, and chickpeas are packed with antioxidants and healthy fats. Walnuts, in particular, stand out for their plant-based omega-3 content, ALA. A handful of walnuts in the afternoon can satisfy cravings for salty snacks while fueling both the brain and muscles with lasting energy. Lean poultry like chicken or turkey is also a smart alternative. Unlike processed meats, lean cuts of poultry don't contain nitrites or chemical preservatives and are lower in saturated fat. A homemade grilled chicken sandwich is far healthier than one made with packaged ham. It not only tastes great, but also lightens the inflammatory load on the brain. We also can't overlook vegetables and fresh fruits. Dark leafy greens such as spinach, kale, and broccoli supply folate, vitamin K, and lutein nutrients tied to better brain function. Fruits bring natural sweetness along with vitamin C, vitamin E, and fiber. An apple, a bowl of berries, or a slice of orange can satisfy the sweet tooth while protecting memory. Making these changes doesn't have to be complicated. Instead of a deli sandwich at lunch, try a salad topped with grilled salmon. Instead of snacking on chips or cured sausage, reach for a handful of almonds with a cup of herbal tea. Instead of starting the morning with bacon, try a bowl of oatmeal with blueberries and a sprinkle of walnuts. These small swaps, when practiced consistently, add up to big results for brain health. Nutrition experts suggest that if you can't give up processed meat completely, aim to cut back to less than once a week. Studies show that even this simple reduction lowers risk compared to eating it daily. Over time, as your body adjusts, switching to healthier protein sources becomes second nature. Cooking at home is another powerful step. When you prepare your own meals, you control how much salt, fat, and seasoning go in. A home-cooked meal is just healthier. It also brings family together, something especially meaningful in later life. To sum it up, replacing processed meat with fatty fish, nuts, beans, lean poultry, fresh vegetables, and fruits helps protect the brain, lower inflammation, and keep the body energized. And the good news is that all of this is within reach. It's simply we've just taken a deep dive into a topic that may feel familiar, yet carries some eye-opening truths, processed meats, and their impact on the brain. Each point in today's video opened a different window on the problem. And when we put them all together, it becomes clear that this everyday eating habit can speed up memory loss far beyond what comes naturally with age. First, we looked at the common ingredients found in processed meats nitrites: salt, saturated fats, and flavor additives. These aren't just words on a label. They're triggers that fuel inflammation, damage blood vessels, and unleash free radicals that attack brain cells. Understanding this is the first step in seeing why processed meats can age the brain so quickly. Second, we explored the deeper biological chain of harm: inflammation, oxidative stress, and the buildup of abnormal proteins like amyloid and tau form a destructive cycle of neurodegeneration. Once that cycle begins, the brain doesn't just slow down. It gradually loses its grip on memory and paves the way for dementia and Alzheimer's. These aren't distant theories. They're well-documented mechanisms confirmed by research. Third, we looked at the processed meats that so often show up in the American diet: bacon, sausages, hot dogs, deli meats, canned meats. The danger doesn't lie in a single serving, but in the repetition over years. A few slices of bacon at breakfast, a ham sandwich at lunch, a hot dog on the weekend. Together they quietly push the brain toward premature aging. And finally, we turned to solutions, swapping processed meats for fatty fish rich in omega-3s, nuts, beans, lean poultry, leafy greens, and fresh fruit is both simple and effective. These foods don't just provide protein and energy. They deliver antioxidants, healthy fats, and vitamins that defend and strengthen the brain. The good news is, these aren't drastic changes. They're small, practical adjustments anyone can begin today. Processed meat isn't a villain if it only appears once in a while, but when it becomes a daily staple, it turns into a silent toxin for the brain. By cutting back and choosing better alternatives, we give ourselves a real chance to stay sharp, preserve memory, and remain independent well into older age. So let's start small-cut processed meat down to less than once a week. Add more fish or nuts to your meals, and make home cooking the priority. These simple habits, repeated steadily, can make a huge difference for brain health. If you found today's topic useful, please hit the like button. Share this video with friends and family. And don't forget to subscribe so we can continue this journey together with more natural, practical health content. And before we wrap up, I'd love to hear from you in your daily diet. Which processed meat is the hardest for you to give up? Bacon, sausage, or a deli sandwich? Share your thoughts in the comments so we can learn from each other and find the best replacements.